Welcome back. It's Chris with Velocity Labs. Today we're going to set up a client. We're going to set up a warehouse server, move on to adding a couple of managed servers, and implement a Veeam Backup and Replication monitoring. So with that groundwork laid, let us get started. I've already logged into the web portal, and so I'll start by I will start by adding our client. I have already configured syncing the configuration with ConnectWise, so I can pull in my clients from ConnectWise. I can show you that here. We have another video on it, but you can see my connection status is good. So when I go to connect, I will be ready to go. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and add our client. We will add the client VenomWorks, and we'll also add the logo for VenomWorks today. And the logo is going to allow any client users that you've created, when they log in and see their dashboard, instead of seeing your MSP logo, they will see their client logo. It's just a level of customization you can add if you'd like to. Certainly not required. But, so I've got them pulled up. You can see right now the Rocket Computers logo is there. That is the name of my MSP. And so I will pull up our logo that we created for VenomWorks to PNG file, which I recommend. We'll drop this in on the box. You'll see that the name of the file has uploaded, and we're getting a little glow showing us that it's ready to go. We'll hit save, and we can see that the logo was added in. So alright, there is a separate video on logos. If you want to get deep into how the logos are configured and work and the hierarchy, that is available to you. But for now, we've got VenomWorks set up, and now we will add our first warehouse server, one that we're going to monitor anyway, and that is HV host-1. Right now, there is another warehouse server in there, but it is not the one that we need. So we'll install the agent on the warehouse server. And I've already copied that over. I'm going to go ahead and run it. Typically, all the defaults will be good enough and you don't have to change anything. But we'll leave this checked, and we'll hit finish, and that's going to open up the registration wizard. And to register this warehouse server, we just need to log in with an admin account from our MSP. So I will do that now, and we'll need a 2FA code. So let's add that in. Alright, so we're connected. This is the first time we'll be adding this server, HV host 1. There is additional training available on a video on registering or reclaiming servers. I won't get into that now, but it is out there. If you have questions around this, it goes into depth. So I am simply going to register this warehouse into our portal under Rocket Computers, and we can see that it was registered okay. So when I close this, we're done. It's just going to disappear. There's nothing left to close, so that is normal. And we can go back to our warehouse servers now. We'll refresh, and we should see that our warehouse is registered. It probably hasn't checked in yet, which is why we have the heartbeat with the yield sign. That yield sign means it's never checked in. If it's checked in once and doesn't check in later, you'll get a red X there that shows that it knows it should be getting a heartbeat, but it's not getting one anymore. This yield sign is temporary, only when you first register, and once you get a heartbeat, it'll go green, and if the heartbeat ever stops, you go red. But that gives you a little explanation on what to see. So we'll let this go for a minute or two. Should check in about once every 60 seconds. So we'll let that run. And in the meantime, we can start working on our managed servers. So now that we have a warehouse server there, we're going to create a couple of managed servers. And when we're talking about Veeam, it's very important, really it's pretty important on all of these, to make sure that you name your managed server correctly. But in Veeam, it's There's a extra precaution you need to take, and it's based off of how your VM is named inside of your Hyper-V console or your VMware console, whatever it may be. And what we want to do is we really want to take these names of the virtual machines as they appear in our console and add them here. We're not going to add all of this extra stuff on these ones. There's some eval information. We'll get into this a little more as we get to it, but let's start with Linux Lite. So we create a managed server that is exactly listed as it is in our console. And the warehouse server, we have two, but it is on HV host 1. And the client that we've added is VenumWorks. So we'll leave this as active and billable and create that server. So we have two more servers we need to add. One is Helios 1, the other is Helios 2. And when you look in our Hyper-V console right now, you can see there's a bunch of added text in that VM name in the console. The preferred method is to match it exactly like we did with this Linux Lite machine. The secondary method is to match the name in the string exactly. And so what I mean by that is we will just type in Helios 1. If you look over here in the name, you'll see that it's Helios 1 is part of this string. It will look to parse that out. If it can find it, it will use that, so that's acceptable. Again, it's not the preferred method. If you can just name it exactly what it should be, that'll be all the better, but it will work. And the client, again, is VenumWorks. The rest of the defaults are acceptable to us, and we'll add that one. And the last one, it will be Helios 2. In the warehouse server, still HV host 1. Client is still VenumWorks, and we'll create this one. So now we've got our three managed servers. We've added our warehouse server and our client. Let's see if our warehouse server has checked in yet. It might still be a little too early, but we'll see. Nope, it's checked in. So everything looks good so far. What we need to do now is we need to add our paths. So I will add a path. And with the paths, there are a couple of things to know to make sure you set this up correctly as well. Really what you want to do is, even though this is being called with an API, you want to configure your path with the physical path that it's been stored at. And so I have a folder where these backups, the Veeam backups, are being stored. You can see Helios 1 is here, or Helios 1 and 2, they're combined in a single backup job, and Linux Lite backups are right there. And I've got my Veeam console open so you can see it here as well. If we go back and we look at our repository, we're using this sin1 192.168.200.220/backups, and then it just automatically, based on your job, will create a subfolder under here. What we want to use for the path names will be the subfolder. So I will take and copy out the Helios 1 and Helios 2. That'll be the first path we create. And so let's create this path. I encourage you to copy and paste whenever possible. It is it'll save you some frustration and headaches, and if you transpose something or something small like that, you'll be digging and trying to figure out what you did wrong, only to find out you transposed a letter somewhere along the line. So the program we're choosing today is Veeam Backup and Replication. We are not off-siting our backups currently anywhere. If we were, we would set this up the same way. It would appear in the backup jobs under the Veeam console, but again, we're not doing that today. Veeam Backup and Replication, if we were using Cloud Connect, we would pick Cloud Connect instead. The Veeam API host is, we're going to leave this as the local host. The API port, these are the defaults that are shown here, so we'll just leave them. They'll get filled in when we save this. You can also type it in if you really want to, but it's not required. And the Veeam Backup job name, this has to be exact. So when we come to our Veeam Backup jobs, let's go back to home. We'll see our backup jobs. It is called Helios 1 and Helios 2. All right, and the warehouse server, HV host-1, In this case, we have two managed servers in this single backup job. So I add them both here. They're active and billable. I mentioned these are not offsite copies. We are not monitoring volumes. That is, Veeam does not give us the level of granularity to be able to see if it's a C volume, a D volume. Everything gets mashed up into single images. So even our servers, both servers are stored in the same image files in the volume. We just can't parse it down. If we check this, it'll try. It's just not going to find anything. And authentication, we are going to leave this unchecked for now. We may visit this again in a few, but this is if the physical folder, if we need to look into the physical folder, if it needs credentials, it will use that. We've also can set some parameters where if it shouldn't be able to access a folder with a set of credentials and you just want to continually do a check, it will do those checks for you as well and report back. But that's another topic. Again, another video for you to review if you're interested in what's the authentication and some of these other features are capable of. But we'll try to stay focused here and just create this path as is, and we'll move along. So that'll take care of our paths for Helios 1 and Helios 2. Now what we need to do is add a path for our Linux Lite backup. So let's create a new path. Again, I'm going to just copy out the exact path so I don't mess it up. Copy and paste, because we like doing that. Program name, Veeam Backup Replication once again. And the backup job name in this one is Linux Lite Backup. So let's type that in exactly like we see it. Warehouse server and the the warehouse server repeats, but this time the managed server is Linux Lite. And again, we're just going to leave these as is for now and create the path. Okay, we've set up Veeam, paths, managed servers, the whole bit. We need to set up our authentication. And there's authentication can be done in a couple different places. We've got a video on authentication where it's a deep dive and really gets into it, because you can set up authentication to suit your needs based on a number of factors. In this case, we're just going to set up authentication for our Veeam right on our warehouse server. And so with that, let's get it in here. We set up HV host 1 with some Veeam paths. So we'll head down. We're going to add Veeam authentication into the warehouse server. And that's going to allow the API calls to authenticate and retrieve the information that we need. So by setting up credentials on the warehouse server for Veeam, it's going to allow the software to call out to the API, authenticate, and retrieve the information that it needs. So I'm hitting authentication, opens up this area for credentials. I want to choose Veeam, and in here we'll just add our credentials that will allow it to authenticate to the API. And that's all there is to it.